Beautiful Chicago. Hello all, thank you. I'm from the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago, and I'm going to spend just a few minutes, I think, talking about success of a program that I think fits in well with the topic of diversity and inclusion, and is probably more along the lines that Bev Lee talked about with regard to race and gender, which this program was really targeted to try to address. And again, I'm Ted Kosowski. I'm the Assistant Director of Human Resources at the Water Reclamation District, and I'm one of the individuals that played a role in establishing our apprenticeship trainee program and guided it to its implementation. So in talking about our apprenticeship program, especially in the context of diversity and inclusion, I think you need to understand our organization and our employment processes, as well as some of the challenges that come with it in trying to then incorporate diversity and inclusion into our process. So let me just begin by saying that the district is an independent government and taxing body charged with protecting the water quality for the majority of residents in Cook County, Illinois. The district serves an equivalent population of 10.35 million people and includes Chicago as well as 128 suburban communities. So when we talk about reach and scope of our organization, pretty large. We operate 7 water reclamation plants and 23 pumping stations. District employment, we have approximately 1,800 employees. 800 of our employees are represented by one of 15 different unions. And our job classifications include skilled trades, mostly construction trades, carpenters, plumbers, pipe fitters, painters, the things that you would typically think about when you think of construction. Police, we have our own police force. Many laborers, they're a large component of our workforce. Laboratory technicians, scientists, and engineers. So we span the gamut with regard to job classifications. We have 266 to be precise, very distinct job classifications. And when vacancies occur in one of these job classifications, most are filled by a competitive civil service examination, which is administered to qualified candidates that apply. The examination process results in eligible lists to make appointments from, and most of these eligible lists have a duration of 3 years. So you can imagine if we miss the mark on our recruitment side and don't get a lot of diversity in these eligible lists, then we're more or less stuck with them for 3 years here at the district. And before we fill vacancies, we take a proactive step to perform an analysis to determine if there is an opportunity to appoint a qualified female or minority from our existing eligible list when the analysis shows that there is underrepresentation in that particular classification. So as you can imagine, this can be a cumbersome employment process. It has yielded us some very fantastic results as far as qualified and dedicated employees, but it does produce its challenges. So how do we begin? We begin by doing what most of our organizations want to do. We want to attract a diverse applicant pool. We do targeted recruitments. We perform outreach activities in the community. We have established relationships with female and minority organizations in all different areas, in the scientific arena and the educational arena, all over. But this can be still a challenge, as if one of our candidates, we show up at a job fair and we are recruiting and we strike that initial interest, before that candidate can qualify for the exam, take the exam, end up on one of our eligible lists, and ultimately be appointed, it can be several months to, in some cases, even a year or more before they are actually appointed from this recruitment process, despite all of our best efforts. So as I mentioned earlier, with those 266 job classifications, we have some challenges with female and minority representation in our skilled trades classifications. Now, here in the Chicago area, the unions have been making progress with diversity in their apprenticeship programs, and they've demonstrated that to us. But we were having difficulty transferring the progress that the unions were making in their process with that employment process that I just described to you. So we had to make a commitment to try to accelerate the union's success with their diversity and their programs and establish that pipeline into our organization. So we initiated our discussions with our union partners in 2017, and we saw that we could make some quick inroads by leveraging an existing union program here locally in the Chicago area. After several months of discussions, we came up with a formal program which we negotiated into our collective bargaining agreement and then recently implemented here in 2020. So we have several pages of our collective bargaining agreement dedicated to outlining the details of this program. But I wanted to share with you an important paragraph that both parties agreed to, and that is the purpose of the program. And that's set forth right in the very beginning of our apprenticeship training program portion of our collective bargaining agreement. And I'll just read a portion of it to you, that pursuant to the district's apprenticeship program, which is established through our state regulations, our statutory regulations, the district and the union are desirous of entering into an agreement for the employment and training of engineer trainees to assist in increasing female and minority representation in the operating engineer classification. For those not familiar with what operating engineers are in the Chicago area, operating engineers operate high pressure boilers, pumps, and other mechanical equipment. And I wanted to point this out because I really believe that this was powerful language and it demonstrates the full commitment of the district and the union in describing the goal of this program. So what does this program look like? It's a partnership between the district and the union provides all of the required classroom instruction. At the union hall, there's typical classroom coursework, labs, hands-on type of work with regard to technical elements of the trade. And then there's a community college component, which several classes are taken at local community colleges in the area. The classroom coursework then concludes with the trainee possessing an associate's degree. So the program is fairly robust on the union side. On the district side, we provide all of the required on-the-job training. And what does that involve? Operation of mechanical equipment at our treatment plant, pumping station, or solids processing facilities. It's full-time work, so it's a 40-hour work week. They mostly perform their work on a day shift with courses in the evening, so it's a rigorous program. But there is flexibility in it if we need to shift a schedule for a trainee to be able to take a day course. We have 24/7 operations, so we're able to put that trainee on a different shift so that they're able to manage both of those pieces of this program. And a key part of it is it's paid work with benefits. There are pay progressions at 12-month increments as long as there's satisfactory performance in the program, and it is a 2 to 3 year program. What do the trainees get when they complete this program? Well, successful completion of the program, which again is typically 2 to 3 years, they qualify to obtain a City of Chicago stationary engineer's license. That license will help them secure employment not only at the district if they choose to stay with us, but it is also beneficial to them should they want to pursue work outside of the district in this particular trade. Completion of the program also qualifies the candidate to take one of our civil service examinations for operating engineer. Candidates that also participate in the civil service exam process are awarded additional points on the exam for completing the trainee program. And successfully passing this examination leads to placement on the eligible list for which they can be permanently appointed for a civil service position as an operating engineer. So our selection of our trainees, this was by design and it's outlined in our negotiated language in the collective bargaining agreement. We did leverage what the union had promised, that they had this diverse population as part of their training programs that they say existed. We weren't seeing it funnel through to our employment process. So we asked them to really provide us that diverse and robust employment pool of applicants, and they did. As promised, they gave us an applicant pool with 64% minority candidates and 36% female candidates. The applicant pool also consisted of recruits already invested in the union's trainee program for several months. So this helped us in the sense that we wanted to make sure there was some success, that candidates were interested in this type of work, and they knew that this is the type of work that they would be performing as their career. Selection of trainees. This is when I talk about some of the cumbersome components of our state statutes and civil service environment. Per the state statute here, we needed to use a lottery mechanism to at least initially rank our candidate pool, which we did. We then shortlisted our candidates by this lottery rank, and then conducted pass fail interviews personally with the candidates. And the intention of these interviews was in no way to try to eliminate candidates or truncate the process or speed it up in any way. It was really to ensure that candidates that were getting involved into this program really had an interest in the program and understood what the work was, especially in a water treatment environment, which some cases they may have not been exposed to or had any familiarity with regard to the special challenges that exist in our environment. Candidates that passed all the steps of this process were then eligible for hire as trainees. And the program launched in March of 2020, just prior to the onset of the pandemic, which was quite a challenge for us. The trainees continued to work during the pandemic period as they provided critical support to our operations. And something that we were very proud of for the very first time, to have some representation in this operating engineer classification. We had, out of the 6 trainees that we hired, 83% minority and 33% female. All of the trainees up to this point have progressed satisfactorily through the program. I know it's very early at the onset, but there's been some really difficult challenges that they've stepped up to during the remote work and obviously the on-site work that we transitioned to during the pandemic. And I think some of the success is great internal buy-in, not only on the union side, but on our management side, all the way from the top of the organization down to the very managers who are supervising these trainees and ensuring that they're getting the right on-the-job training. And that's partially because many of the supervisors went through the apprenticeship program at the union hall themselves. So they support the program, they understand it, they understand some of the challenges, as well as what the goals are in our program was to create that diversity in the workforce, which augments well with our organization as we continue to put on diversity training and all sorts of different exercises to make sure that we have that diversity and inclusion in our workplace. So I think one of the points I'll conclude with here is the success of this example of a program, which I hope was helpful for this group, was really collaboration. We had historical underrepresentation of female and minority candidates in this job classification here at the district that had over 125 budgeted positions with little to no diversity. Hard to believe in the Chicago metropolitan area. In our discussions with the unions, they assured us that their trainee program did have candidates that was in fact more reflective of the demographics and diversity of the Chicago metropolitan area. And through that relationship and union collaboration, we found a way to leverage their diverse applicant pool and bring it into our employment pipeline. And we're really proud of it, and it shows that efforts like these are possible, even when we were told that in the restrictive environment where there's hurdles of these lotteries and state statute regulations as well as civil service protocols that it could not be accomplished, we were able to accomplish it. And we hope to get into more of these programs, more apprentice programs, Department of Labor certified programs, and some of the other trades. We are right now embarking on a program with our machinists, which is again, another highly skilled group of workers that that tend to be in high demand in this area. So it's a well-paying job that we're trying to recruit for now and utilize and leverage this existing program and make it work for us and serve the community and those that we serve in our community, the entire population. So I hope you found that to be helpful. I think I'm pretty much right up against my time window, but if there's any questions.
Yeah, this in the chat box, there is one question from Neil Grigg. Do you have one collective bargaining agreement or many?
We have multiple. We have 7 collective bargaining agreements, and I think part of what we did here was try to get buy-in from all of our union partners and show that we're able to accomplish this. So we took a small bite and just started with one of our collective bargaining agreements, but we do have already an inroad into a second collective bargaining agreement, which we intend to continue to have proactive dialogue and discussions to bring that program to fruition.
Great. The next question is, do you provide civil service exam prep assistance opportunity for participants?
In this particular case, we do not. In some cases, we do provide study guides. This particular examination, we'll have to see if we would provide a study guide, and if we would provide that study guide, it would be available not only to our trainees, but to the entire population of applicants that would be applying. So it really depends on the job classification. And I think we're going to learn. I mean, this is, we're just breaking the door open. We're going to learn. And if it appears that that's something that would be helpful to the trainees and the rest of the population, we're all about trying to get a very qualified and diverse workforce. So if we can give them the tools to help them succeed in the examination process, that would work for us.
Okay, there's a follow-up from Neil, then we will stop. There's 2 questions I will take. Do you face opposition anywhere in setting this up, I believe, for collective bargaining follow-up?
We did have some challenges, and I don't want to say it's because the union was unwilling to cooperate with us. The unions have all been very open and receptive to cooperation. Part of the challenge with our particular entity is, as I mentioned, those construction trades that we have so many of here. The type of work that those particular construction trades perform in our organization are really more maintenance work as opposed to building and constructing. So one of the challenges that we had with many of our union partners were, if we go through this apprenticeship program and they get so much of this on-the-job training here at the district, they're going to be gypped only because we're such a specialized work environment and we provide all these important services, but it's very specialized, and they may not get, these trainees or apprentices may not get the full breadth of construction experience that they would with other employers on the outside, and we might be shortchanging them. So that's one of the challenges we're working with, and we may have to try to partner up with some other entities where we lack the on-the-job training or experience. We might have to partner up with the city of Chicago or some other agency.
Right. One more question. Are you planning to expand apprenticeship to other titles?
That's something that we would be looking at outside of just our union group. There are some other operating groups, treatment plant operators, that we could benefit from a program like this. So we are exploring that as well right now.
Great. Thanks, Ted. Yeah, and we will discuss more in the breakout also. Probably, Ted, you will be around for some time, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. Can you stop sharing, Ted?
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Yep.